Baton Rouge nights, tiger stripes and dirt, golden arm, yeah, the kid could work. Golden spike shining, red, white, blue, and golds. Olympic dreams with a heart that never froze. It's Big Ben and Birdland, Camden Yards lights, from the mound to the mic, still calling it right. 100 at heart, LSU pride. Baltimore loves him, yeah, that never dies. 7 years deep, left it all on the hill. Crack a joke in the booth, make the whole place grin. College Hall of Fame, yeah, he punched that in. It's Big Ben and Birdland, laughing his voice. Southern truth every time he makes a call or a choice. From Tigers to O's, man, he lived it all right. Baltimore loves Ben every damn night. Yeah, Birdland knows his name. Yeah, Birdland knows his name.
Birdland, what's going on? I had to bring that special intro back when Ben comes on. That's a good one. I always got to replay there. So, but Ben, we appreciate you jumping back on with us here tonight. We know you were just down in Sarasota, putting the pants back on. How did it feel to put the pants back on?
The same size pants, they just fit a little different. Things kind of move around in that uniform over the years. But no, it's always a thrill of mine to go back and put the Oriole uniform on. That's where it all obviously began from a pro perspective for me with the Orioles. I owe the Orioles a whole lot for taking a chance on me and getting to play with the Orioles and growing up and as a 21-year-old in Baltimore and the fans that really took to me for whatever reason, man. We kind of hit it off and we're still hitting it off today, which is great. But it's always fun to go back. I love going back and seeing the guys. Obviously, pretty much a new coaching staff this year, so I wanted to meet some of those guys. I hadn't met Albanez yet until the other day. And of course, a lot of the other coaches. Obviously, the pitching guys stayed in-house, but to meet some of the new coaches was fun, to get to visit with them a little bit. And of course, Pete Alonso, I knew from covering him at Florida in the SEC. I covered him for 3 years, so I kind of knew him. Didn't know Helsley, didn't know Shane Baz other than from watching him from a distance. But anyway, to get to catch up with the new guys too. Another thing I like going down for my broadcasting purposes is finding out what everybody worked on in the offseason. Like, what were you working on to get better? What kind of pitches did you pick up if you were a pitcher? What did you want to change? What was good about last year? What did you want to improve on? What did you work on this offseason? So I use it in that way, too, to kind of build some trust with the players. Don't do a ton of coaching. I just kind of keep my mouth shut. But when somebody approaches me and, Klimek and them, and they do such a wonderful job on the pitching side, I don't stand in anybody's way. But when I'm asked from one of the pitchers, hey, how'd you hold this? What'd you think in this situation? Always will give my 2 cents in that regard. So it's always fun to go down and just catch up with the boys, be down in Florida again, be down in Sarasota. Just a wonderful place. I enjoy it.
Yeah, so it's interesting that you said who developing a new pitch, because that's actually some of the topics that we're going to cover tonight. But before we get into that, I kind of want to get what are your thoughts on that new facility down there? And do you think that kind of helps set them apart from everybody else?
Definitely. I mean, I've been to a lot of spring training complexes the last 4 or 5 years, and I don't think I've seen anything like this. And what's amazing to me is when we left there last year, they hadn't even started. They hadn't even broke ground on that place. I got there this year, man. It looked like a totally different complex. The indoor hitting facility is amazing. I mean, it's a big old square, but it's 4 different cubes that you can hit, and it's not just the typical tunnel batting cages. Like, it's almost the length of an infield where you can actually see the flight of your ball and you can track the ball when you hit it, out to the shortstop or second base or push back a little bit. That is so cool. The indoor pitching lab, man, is wonderful. A lot of information gathered there because you can get all the Edgertronic cameras and the slow motion stuff. You can see your spin rates and vertical induced break, all those analytical things we like to talk about. You can see all that. You got 7 or 8 mounds that are covered now, where you can throw bullpens in case it rains, like they did the other day when the game got rained out. The guys went and got their work in, and so it's going to be a lifesaver. I mean, it's a top-notch facility like none I've ever seen, and it's really cool to go see what the players have now, man. They got everything at their disposal that they need to gather information to get and try to gain an advantage, and that's what it's all about.
Do they have any of the same kind of stuff in the Dominican facility?
That I don't know. I haven't been to the Dominican facility, but I would think so. I mean, the pitching labs are becoming pretty common now. Now,
Hmm.
batting cages can be a little bit different, but the pitching labs are so important because, we're chasing not just velo, we're chasing shapes and we're chasing spins and induced vertical break and, the sweeper, how much horizontal break you get in it and all those things. Those are things that the pitchers want to know, and that's what they're all trying to get to because now we know that the velocity, the shape, the spin rate all matters. And if you can create those particular spins and shapes and all those things, you got a better chance of getting guys out. Now, it's still the old school approach. You still got to get the ball to the white part of the plate. And you might be able to tell me as a pitching coach where my stuff is going to play the best and what quadrant of the strike zone. But still, from a mechanical standpoint, I still got to figure out a way to get those balls in those particular quadrants of the strike zone to have the most success. So it's an old school approach from a mechanical side of how to get the ball where you want it, but it's the newer age stuff of all the spins and shapes that we're chasing and trying to create now.
Yeah. So I'm going to move right on into what you were talking about with guys developing new pitches here. And Yennier Cano, moving into that split finger now. Now, it's about 91.6 mile an hour so far in spring training, and he's kind of locating it fairly well with 38.5-inch downward movement. Did you get a chance to see that live at all?
I didn't see it live. I watched him throw a bullpen one day that was down there, and I could tell that he had the split finger fastball going. You know the story with the changeup. When he first came up, the changeup was a really good pitch for Yennier, but then that changeup started to kind of morph into the two-seam fastball. In other words, the difference in the speed wasn't enough, and it almost had the exact same shape as that two-seam fastball. We kind of moved down and away to the left-handed hitters. Well, over time, as long as he located it perfectly, he had success. But when he made a mistake and left it kind of middle part of the plate or up a little bit because it was almost the same velocity as the fastball, guys would begin to run into it a little bit. That's kind of what happened to him. So he kind of ditched the changeup. He wanted something that didn't go left or right. It had more downward action to it and was a tick slower. And so that's kind of where he landed with the splitter. He's also obviously tried to shorten up the slider of his as well, want to be more consistent with that slider because, that's what this league is about, man. And when you first get introduced to the league, pitchers always, I feel like, have the advantage. But as hitters begin to see you more and more over time, then your stuff becomes, okay, I've seen that before. So what are you trying to do now to be a little bit better, to show them something a little bit differently? And I think Yennier, he talked about what he did this offseason. He got back to lifting weights heavy again. Last year going into camp, he did more tubing, more bands, more of those things. And he felt like it hurt him a little bit on his endurance and his power. So he got back to doing the things that he did several years ago and lifted heavier on the weight program. And he changed his pitch mix up a little bit and tried to sharpen things up. And Yennier looks very similar to me to the Yennier of several years ago when he was an all-star. He looks really good. And of course, as we all know, with Kittredge going down, his role's been amped up a little bit. And of course, Tyler Wells' role has been amped up a little bit too, because now those guys become the setup guys now because Kittredge is down.
Yeah. Now, did you get any chance to talk with him? Anything what's his confidence level like?
It seems to be good. I mean, I had a chance to visit with him a little bit and talk to him. He was excited about the work that he put in the offseason about lifting weights again. That's what he talked about more than anything. And he said the splitter's a pitch that he picked up last year. He started messing around with it, throwing it last year, really worked hard on it this offseason to try to be as consistent as he could with it. But he said it wasn't a huge adjustment for him. Now, it is unusual because I threw a fork ball, split finger fastball, and most guys that do throw that pitch are guys that come more straight over the top a little bit because you want that tumbling action. Obviously, Yennier Cano's arm slide is on down a little bit, so a little bit unusual for those guys to be able to throw a split finger fastball, but he's figured out a way to do it, and it looks pretty good. So I think Yennier is going to have a good year. He's always been a pretty durable guy. Ever since he came up, he's had a lot of appearances. I think he's been up around 65 or 70 appearances just about every year. He got there last year too and was sitting down for a while last year, and so I think he's going to have a good year. It feels like that he's comfortable where he's at right now.
Yeah, he's always been the guy, too, that just seems to just not remember yesterday either. He could go out and give up some runs and then come right back the next day and give you the outing that you want. And it's nice to see. So moving on to Helsley here. He's also trying to pick up the split finger here. And as you can tell a little bit, he might hit a couple righties with it. But being able to throw 100 miles an hour and then drop down to an 88.5 mile an hour splitter with 23.5-inch movement, how effective is that? And it's just not fair to a hitter, is it?
No, it's not.
Locate
and here, That's right. But the key for him is any off speed. When I look at Helsley pitch, because the fastball is such high velocity, he's gonna be anywhere from 96 to 100 miles an hour. Hitters have to get their foot down. They got to be
Hmm.
ready to respect the fastball, okay? Unless they get counts in their favor, then they can start to guess a little bit. But for the most part, you can't let the fastball beat you off of Helsley. So anytime he can land any type of off-speed pitch, whether it's that breaking ball or the splitter, it's going to be a difference maker for him because guys have to gear up to be able to hit the fastball. And so the difference in speed, again, when we're talking 98 versus an 88 mile an hour splitter, 10 miles an hour, that's a lot to deal with. The breaking ball for him, the velocity on it is down a little bit too. So that's a big adjustment too because his breaking ball is real, and everybody talks about,
Yeah.
well, we know he's got a big fastball and they know that the wipeout pitch is the breaking ball. So he's been tinkering with the splitter too, again, just to show something different, to have a little bit different shape, a little bit different velocity. But I liked his action on his splitter too, and I love the breaking ball for sure.
Is the splitter a Drew French thing? It seems to kind of be like the organization's go-to pitch when they bring somebody in.
Yeah, I think it's kind of, I'm not going to say it's getting back in vogue, but I feel like more and more guys, because if you look at swing and miss, if you look at the biggest swing and miss pitch in baseball right now, it's the splitter.
Hmm.
And I think from a swing and miss standpoint, I think more and more guys are trying to tinker with it. And again, it could be the guys, and we've talked about this before, that maybe couldn't pronate enough to throw the circle change and just couldn't be consistent with it and wasn't able to turn their wrist over and get the action they wanted. The splitter to me is an easier pitch to throw because all you do is spread your fingers out and you just rip it straight down just like a fastball. So it feels like an easier pitch to be able to pick up and run with pretty quickly. When I started throwing mine, I picked it up in 1988 from Charles Nagy on the Olympic team, and he was throwing a splitter when he got there. I never threw one before. I was like, how do you hold that? He said, well, I just take a two-seam fastball and spread my fingers, put my thumb on the side, and I just throw it. Well, I was like, okay. So I started tinkering with it, and by the end of the summer, I was already using it in the ball game because it came pretty natural. So I think it's a pitch that you can pick up really easily. So for two reasons, I think the swing and miss proponent of it, and then I think it's an easier pitch to pick up. I think guys are really starting to move more in that direction when you don't have that swing and miss changeup. Now, Tyler Wells has the swing and miss changeup. Like he can really turn it over and he's got a great feel for it. He can run it down away from the lefties. He doesn't need it. He's got these giant hands like me, but he doesn't need the splitter because he can really command that circle change that he has. And so I think to each his own. And if you can't pronate and throw a changeup, I think the splitter is where you're going to be because it's an easy pitch to pick up.
For sure. Do guys still have to is that the grip that they have to pretty much take every time because it's easier to move away than it is to kind of dig in there after you get the sign? Do they have to start with the splitter grip?
Yeah, I think it's easy to start with the grip. And the key for me was always when you come set in your glove is to kind of move around. Like, even though you may not be adjusting to a different pitch, you make the hitter think that you are. So you
Hmm.
got to be careful because if you're going to start with another grip and you got to get that fork ball or splitter, you got to kind of dig to get it. And
Right.
then you start kind of tipping pitches a little bit. So I think you see, like Dean Kramer, he always starts with the splitter grip. It's always in the back of his hand. He comes up and he'll wiggle whether he's changing to a different pitch or not. So I think you're going to see most guys, that's what they're going to do. They're going to start with the split grip.
Yeah. And so let's move on to the next guy. Shane Baz here with a sinker at 95, which is nice. I mean, two-seam sinker kind of thing here. But did you get a chance to see that one at all?
Yes, yes. I saw him throw several bullpens. I saw him throw a live too, and I'm excited about Boz. I really am. I think he is just starting to tap into the potential that he has because it's real juice, man. It's real stuff. It's a live arm from a guy that's not maybe a little bit undersized pitcher, but like he generates some arm whip in there, and he's got the four seam fastball towards the top. And look, we've talked about this before. 5 or 6 years ago, everybody had the sticky stuff on, which was fine, and they
Mhm.
were challenging guys with those four seam fastballs at the top of the zone and just wearing out hitters. And that's where we were then. Hitters have done a really good job the last 3 or 4 years of learning how to attack the ball at the top of the strike zone, trying to get on top of those high spin rate fastballs. And so pitchers are always trying to stay one step ahead. And now all of a sudden, I remember telling Kevin Brown on the air 2 or 3 years ago, I was like, we're starting to see more two-seam fastballs. I said, I feel like pitchers are now transitioning back to being able to do both. And I think that's where we all were in my time, because if I found a guy that had a really flat bat path, I may attack him in a different way. If I got a guy that's a big uppercut swing, I'm going to attack him at the top part of the strike zone. If I got a guy that's more of a flat back, I'm going to attack him with more two seamers down. And so you can if you can throw both and be effective with them, it kind of gives you two different fastballs, one to use at the top of the zone, one to use down. And no matter who comes to the plate, you feel pretty comfortable that your fastball is going to play. So I feel like we're starting to transition more back to, not that guys are losing their four seamers. They're not. I think they're just starting to incorporate two seam fastballs now to be able to attack different types of swings.
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree with you. And it seems like a little bit last year, it seemed like the Orioles were definitely working up more in the zone than they were in previous years. And at least now they got some velocity guys that can pull it off a little bit. A buddy of mine.
Well, you remember, you remember. I mean, 3 years ago, it's what changed Kyle Bradish's career.
Yes.
It's what changed Dean Kramer's career. Was picking up that two seam fastball. They both were four seam, top of the zone, let it rip kind of dudes, and they picked up that two seam fastball. And now that's what Kyle Bradish throws more than he throws his four seamer, because he's found a way to take a high velocity fastball and make it move more so than the average fastball. So he's going to mostly two seam fastballs now. Yep. But I mean, that's how it can change people's careers.
Yep. A buddy of mine wanted me to ask you about a former LSU guy, Christian Little. You remember him?
I sure do. Yeah. Yeah.
So he's related to him, and he said that he would prefer if you would get the front office to trade him to the Orioles.
I always liked Christian when he was at LSU. He had trouble sometimes. You know, he was a young guy that came from Vanderbilt, if I'm not mistaken, and I think he was in college at 17 years old, like just turned 17. So he was young. It took him a little while to get going, but he kind of found his groove with LSU later in the season. He really started to throw the ball a lot better. So and a great kid, great young man, great young man.
Yeah, he's over with Seattle now.
Yeah.
So let's. Oh, did I miss one? No. Nope, this is good. Tell me a little bit about Zach Eflin. What are expectations for him right now? Is the talk going to be a 6-man rotation, or is it like Zach maybe is good in the bullpen, or Dean's good in the bullpen? Is he going to start the season? Let's start there, if you know that.
I don't know it for sure, but if you read between the lines a little bit, he's not had as many starts as Shane Baz or Kramer or Rogers, or Bradish. And so if you read between the lines a little bit, and then again, this is me speculating, but I think he starts the year on the IL. I don't think you need a 6-man rotation early in the year because of the off days, and especially early in the year. I wanted to throw every 5th day whenever I could early in the year. Now, as you started to pile up the innings and you started to pile up the starts, second half of the season, okay, an extra day every now and then would be a good idea. Yeah. Honestly, I think what the Orioles are going to do, I think they're going to slow roll Eflin. Not because he won't be ready, but he just doesn't have the starts. I don't think he's going to be built up quite enough yet. Give him a few more starts, and then I could certainly see a 6-man rotation. I think it would be a way of protecting Kyle Bradish in some ways, who didn't throw much the last couple of years. And if you think about it, something nobody else is talking about either is Trevor Rogers is the most innings he's ever thrown in a season at the big league level is 133 innings. And so if you run him out there for 31, 32 starts, what's it look like in August and September for him? What's it look like? Now, we all hope that he's in great shape and it looks the same. But truth is, the first time you get there and the first time you get to 150, 160, 170 innings, sometimes it falls off a little bit. And so I could definitely see a 6-man rotation on into the season to, one, help Bradish out a little bit because we want to keep his starts and his innings down a little bit. He hadn't thrown much. Trevor Rogers, like I said, 133 on that end right there. And Shane Baz, while he had a full year last year, remember, he is just still 1 year removed from Tommy John surgery as well. Now, the downside to that is if you, like the Houston Astros were last year, you missed the playoffs by one season and that by one game. And that's what the Astros. And if you look back on the season, you go, my gosh, we went to a 6-man rotation. I could have got Trevor Rogers 2 more starts, 3 more starts. I could have got Kyle Bradish 2 more starts, and yet we missed the playoffs by one game. That would be a tough pill to swallow. And so the ideal scenario is the Orioles get out to a great start in the month of April. You start gaining ground on some teams. And of course, the schedule, as you know, favors the Orioles on paper. Again, it's on paper. Still got to go out and play, but the schedule on paper in April is not a tough schedule for the Orioles. So you hope they gain some ground, get a little breathing room, especially over the Yankees, who we know are going to be short Garrett Cole, going to be short Rodon to begin the year. Maybe you gain some ground on those guys and you can, kind of sit back a little bit and say, okay, we have time for a 6-man rotation. We aren't chasing our tail like we were last year. We can afford to go with a 6-man rotation. But, these things always have a way of working themselves out when you talk about too many starting pitchers, because as you know, you can't have too many of them. I think we used, 17 starters last year, if I'm not mistaken. The average big league club used about 11 or 12. And so you can't have enough of them. But the Orioles have 6 real starters, and that's a good problem to have. I hope everybody stays healthy. Hope there's some tough decisions to make in there. That would be a wonderful year if that's the case.
Now, it's funny that you said they have 6 good starters, because my next topic might actually add to that number. But I want you to hear Craig's interview today, and I want to kind of hear your thoughts about it, if you don't mind.
Too soon for Luis De Leon to have
Are you able to hear
competed
this?
for a spot, but the little
Yes.
bit you saw of
Okay.
him, does that kind of give you an idea of just how good he can be and what that ceiling is?
Yeah, I love watching that dude pitch, selfishly. I love his demeanor on the mound. He throws strikes. Even his first outing with us in Fort Myers, where he threw 4 pitches, and he had that PFP and he was going to get it, he was laughing. As he was going to get the ball, it just shows that, he's under control. The game's not speeding up for him. Yeah, he's one that I think is going to be of all the guys, he's going to make a real impact for us, along with the other 3. But with De Leon in particular, the stuff is real.
What's your thoughts on these 2 guys?
I don't disagree at all about De Leon. It's real. It's a live arm. And, we said this the other day. In Major League Baseball last year, you know how many left-handed pitchers, starting pitchers, averaged 97 miles an hour? It was one. It was Tarek Skubal. That was the only one. This kid's fastball in spring training has averaged 97 miles an hour from the left side. And he'd be the second one if he was in the big leagues right now. They could average 97 as a starter, to kind of give you an idea of what you're looking at. Now, I don't think he has a whole lot of AAA experience. Did he make it to AAA right at the end last year? Oh, he did. So it was AA last year. Yep. Okay. Yeah. To me, I know his goal, and I heard him say that his goal is get to the big leagues this year. I think that's reasonable to think that, but he's got to climb through. And, Mike's always been a guy, Mike Elias has, that he wants everybody to have success at every level. He likes guys to have success at A-ball, success at AA, success at AAA. There are some exceptions to the rule, but I think we could see De Leon make it to the big leagues in what, in what position, I don't know, maybe as a starter. Obviously, if guys get hurt, then it changes everything, but maybe he's a bullpen arm later on in the season. Maybe he's a September call-up, but I'm just super excited about him. Trey Gibson is another guy that I watch pitch a little bit, that I think has a real shot to getting there this year in some capacity this year as well, But again, these are unproven talents, obviously, at the big league level. They've not been there before. But if you talk about the AAA, what could be the AAA starting rotation, it's the most talent I can ever remember when you talk about AAA rotation. And from a minor league pitching standpoint, where the Orioles are right now with the development in the minor leagues with their pitchers compared to where they were, say, 4 or 5 or 6 years ago, it's night and day. There's some real dudes down there now that are going to come up in the near future and make a difference in my mind. But I still like the guys that they have at the big league level. They're proven commodities right now at the big league level. And I think that's where the bread and butter is going to be for the Orioles this year. And there's going to be some help coming along the way as well.
Yeah. I mean, you think about it. You got De Leon, you got Gibson, you got Levi Wells. I mean, Blake Money could get a shot up there. Kate Bogich is down there too. The AAA lineup at any moment could provide a little bit of relief, even to the bullpen. If it's moving some guys in and out for 2-3 days or something like that. The quality of arms is finally getting to where it needs to be for this organization, I think. Yeah,
and I loved the 2 guys that came from the Mets in spring training this year. I can't call their names right now. Was it Nunez and
Neighbors?
And who was the other? Yeah, the big right-hander. Yeah. Those are Nunez, man. I feel like Nunez is a little bit more polished. he seemed to control the strike zone a little bit more for me. I think Nunez is going to play a part in the bullpen this year. I think he's going to be a big part of it. I really do. And you know how this works, man. With making a club, options matter. And the guys that have options, typically, no matter how good a spring they had, those guys typically get sent down from time to time, you know. And the guys that don't have options are the guys sometimes that make the team, because you don't want to lose that guy. You want to give that guy a chance to be successful. Because if you release a guy and you DFA a guy right now, he's most probably going to be picked up by somebody. But if you hold on to him, say for the first 2 weeks, and let's say he's not pitching well, maybe you can sneak him through the waiver wire if he doesn't have options left, and maybe you put him into the AAA system. And I think that's kind of the idea right now. But there's certainly some decisions to make in the bullpen for sure.
Tell me a little bit about Jackson Kowar, because that was a name to me that didn't even ring a bell at all. And then all of a sudden he goes out there, and obviously me and everybody else's interest was immediately piqued.
Yeah, well, that's the guy I'm talking about. I mean, he's out of options. He's always had this big arm. I covered him at the University of Florida when he was there. He could always just throw the fire out of the ball. Now he's throwing it a little bit harder now, but I mean, it's a fastball that averages 98 from the right side.
Right.
Kowar stuff, it's pretty simple with Kowar. Can you get your stuff over the white part of the plate? That's all they're asking him to do. It's not about hit a spot right now, because he does struggle with command from time to time. And it's always, can you just work ahead? Can you throw strike one and then let your stuff play from there? Because the fastball is real. The breaking ball is a good breaking ball. The off-speed pitch is good too. I really think because he's out of options and because he's got that big arm, I think he's going to make the team. I really do. I think they're going to give him a shot to be successful out of the bullpen and see what happens. And if he doesn't have success, he's not throwing enough strikes, I think after 2 weeks in the season, maybe you can keep him in your system. If you let him go, nobody's going to pick him up. Maybe you can slide him through. But if you release Jackson Kowar right now, like say tomorrow, somebody's picking him up. Like he's going right on somebody's roster right away.
Yeah.
And so that's why I think he's going to make the team.
Now, I've talked about this a couple times myself, and somebody just put it in the chat, but I want to know your timeline on something like this. And it says, I wouldn't mind seeing Povich move to the bullpen full-time. He's very good in 3 to 4 inning stretches. When I look at Povich, he's a guy that the first time to the lineup, he's actually pretty exceptional. It's that second and third time as he really starts getting hit. When does an organization, not just even the Orioles, but an organization overall, when do they finally make that decision to say, like, yeah, I know this guy's young, but he really could help me out in the bullpen? Or do you just still try to, because it's starting pitching, they're so hard to find, do you try to keep them as long as possible?
Yeah, it's a need basis thing, right? Like last year we needed all the starting pitchers we could get because there were so many injuries. And so you wanted to keep building guys up to be starters. In a perfect world where the Orioles stay healthy this year, I think Cade Povich is definitely a bullpen piece for me. I think he's a long guy out of the bullpen. And we've seen guys before with the Orioles that were starters. I mean, Keegan Aiken used to be a starter, and now he's a bullpen guy. I mean, and listen, the truth is that the majority of relievers that are out there were former starters that couldn't get through the lineup a second time, so you end up being bullpen pieces. That's the truth of it. You know, then there's closers out there that are strictly closers. Like when Greg Olson came to the Orioles in 88, he was a closer in college, and so he was going to be a closer in the pro game. But the truth is, it's kind of like the wide receiver versus the defensive back in the NFL. A defensive back is just a wide receiver that didn't have good hands. And so you turn him into a defensive back. That's what he is. I think it's the same way with some relievers that are out there, is that maybe you didn't have the endurance. Maybe you couldn't hold your stuff for 4 or 5 innings. Maybe the second time through the lineup, you just couldn't get guys out. And so you end up being a bullpen piece. And it's a very valuable bullpen piece. And you're right. I think Povich gets off to pretty good starts. He goes to the lineup really good once, and then he kind of hits a little bit of a wall sometimes when guys start to see him the second time through. It's eerie for me if you look at his numbers. 2 years ago, he had a 5.21 ERA. Last year, he had a 5.20 ERA.
You know,
Picked up his strikeouts big time last year, of 2 per 9, better than the year before. Cut down his walks. But the weird thing was his opponent's batting average went up nearly 30 points from last year than the year before. So I'm trying to figure out who Cade Povich is. I love the kid. I think there's something there. I tell people this all the time. He doesn't have wow you stuff. Like, he's not going to throw you 96 or 97. But if you look at his career numbers at the big league level, it's a strikeout per inning. Like there's something as a starter,
Yeah.
there's something there. And if you look at the minor league numbers, it's a lot more than a strikeout inning.
Right.
Like there's something there for him. And picked up the kick change last year. It was a difference maker. Now he, like some other guys, throwing a new pitch. He's got that bullet spin slider, so he's still got that sweeping slider. It's going hard horizontal, but now he's picked up a bullet spin slider, which just has depth to it. Just kind of goes straight down. So he's got for the second consecutive year, he's got a new pitch that he's working on, and he'll throw this year. So I think Cade Povich is going to play this year in 2026. He's going to be a part of this for sure.
Whenever you get some free time, just take a peek at it. Look at his numbers compared to Brian Mattis at that same point of his career, and it's eerie similar. Similar. It's crazy.
That's another one. Brian Mattis was a starter for a while, remember? Yep. And then, hell, I'll take you back further than that. Remember Arthur Rhodes, who I played with?
Yep.
I mean, he was a starter, and Arthur he would get so nervous the night before when he knew he was pitching, man, because me and him were there at the same time. Like, he wouldn't sleep at all. It just chewed on him at night. And look, we all have trouble sleeping the night before a start. That's normal. We're not machines. As people think we're machines, but we're not. We get nervous. Our belly starts to get a little bit bothersome to us from time to time. You're nervous about your start. You have trouble sleeping the night before. You're nervous until you let the first pitch go out of your hand in a ball game. Then all the nervousness goes away. But Arthur was a guy that really struggled to start. And then all of a sudden they decided, hey, let's put him in the bullpen. And the dude pitches like 12 more years out of the bullpen and was outstanding. That was his role. Maybe that's going to be Cade Povich's role too.
Yeah. So we're going to shift gears just a touch. We're going to move on to Coby Mayo. And what do you what did I just do to yours? My bad. Hold on.
I'm here somewhere. I can hear you.
Yeah. What are you seeing out of Coby Mayo compared to last year for what you've just seen? I mean, that was just a couple weeks, but like kind of walk us through the whole revamped Coby Mayo.
Well, I'm going to tell you, body language is everything to me. And Coby Mayo came in, for whatever reason, more confident than what he was last year. He had his chest stuck out from day one. And he said, look, this is going to be a challenge. And I got to talk to him personally. He said, I worked so hard. Everybody knows the story about becoming a first baseman last year. I worked my tail off. I put in a lot of reps. And now they want me to go play third again. But you know what? I'm okay with that, because if it means getting on the field and being an everyday player, I'm all about it. I want to do it. And that was his attitude, which is great. And so I also think he came in more confident. I think the month of September last year really gave him an off season where he could kind of catch his breath and say, you know what? I can really hit. I can hit at the big league level. I showed it. Everybody says, oh, September doesn't matter. Spring training doesn't matter. I beg to differ. The month of September did matter to Coby Mayo because he got his confidence up. I think he hit over 300 in September last year. I think he hit 4 or 5 homers. He looked like a different dude. That carried over into spring training from day one. And he seemed very confident at the plate. Very confident to me. And it reminds me a lot of Tyler O'Neill, too. I told that story the other day, too. He showed up in camp. When I saw him, it was like, hey, this is a totally different dude. Like, this dude is comfortable with his surroundings. Second year with the club. He knows what to expect now. His body's in a good place. Like, this dude is confident. I see the same thing from Coby Mayo. It's just a guy that says, okay, this is my time. Jordan Westburg, unfortunately, I hate it for him. He's hurt, but you know what? I'm going to get an opportunity to go play every day like I was doing last year. And I'm going to show everybody that I'm a big leaguer. I'm a big leaguer for a long time. And I love where Coby is right now.
Good. I mean, it's good to hear. I mean, I think we all know the bat is going to play in Coby's career. Now, from what you've seen, what kind of defensive drills were they working on every day? I mean, I've talked to some people that, Albertez has been right there all day, every day, and they're working on certain footwork things, and they're working on his shoulders and whatnot. Like, how much is Miguel Cairo working with him every day, and how hard on him is he? Sorry. Yeah,
I love Miggy. I was on the same team with Miggy when I was with the Rays, when I was rehabbing and got to play with him a little bit. He reminds me of Bobby Dickerson. He reminds me of Tony Mansolino. He is really good with infielders, and I watched him work over there. And the biggest thing they were working on with Coby was being athletic. As we all know, Coby's a big dude. He's 6'5". You don't see many 6'5" third basemen that are out there right now. And the big thing I kept hearing Miggy tell Coby was keep your feet going, keep your feet moving. And the same thing that Bobby Dickerson used to always say, and Tony said the same thing. Your feet take your glove to the ball. The footwork is so important. The other thing they were working on him is Coby, when he caught balls and when he would throw them wild, he would catch the ball and stand straight up. Like he would stand. They want him to be more in a crouch and more of a athletic position, keep his feet moving, and then turn the ball loose towards first base because we know it's a big arm. Like it is a cannon of an arm coming across a diamond. But that scope needs zeroing in every now and then, and he can spray it over there a little bit. You know what I'm saying? Like he can spray it. So the way they're telling him, the way you could be more consistent, keep your feet moving toward the target, point your shoulders, stay in an athletic position, and stay a little bit lower in that athletic position as you let the ball go. Do not stand straight up. And if you go back and look at some of the highlights this year in spring training, when Kobe's thrown the ball a little bit wide, he stood up. Okay. When he stayed low and kept his feet moving, the throw was more online. And so I do see improvements for him. I think the more he goes out there, and I wish for Coby sometimes that he could play a year like in 2020 or 19 or 21
Right.
where he was going to get reps no matter what. But the truth is, the Orioles are in the win this year. Like it's time for the Orioles to win. It is their time right now with this nucleus and the additions that they have. And so every play matters, every game matters. You got to win every game now. So he doesn't have that luxury of learning at the big league level. Like it's go, go, go right now. And it's try to get to the playoffs.
Yeah, exactly. I get a little fun one for you here. If you had to pick one of these three, Mayo, Cowser, or Basayo, who has the best arm?
Honestly, they all three have above average arms, obviously. But if I got to go with the best arm, like if I told all three of them to go get on the pitcher's mound and show me who had the most velocity, I would pick Basayo. Like when he throws it down to second, like you
Sizzles?
can hear it going,
Yeah.
like it sizzles going down there. Like I would like if he got on the mound and threw 95, I would not be shocked at all. Not even close. Not even close. So they all got big arms, above average arms. There's no doubt, but I think Basayo's got the biggest arm of the three.
Would you put it up with Machado's?
I don't know if I go there. Like Manny still amazes me. The plays he made the other day in the World Baseball Classic when he was going, plumb
Oh, that was crazy,
foul.
wasn't it?
Just the accuracy and the pace of the ball across the diamond is like I think Manny's from an arm standpoint, from a defense standpoint, I think he's the best third baseman in the game. I think he's been that way
Yeah.
for a long, long time now. Like he's just that dude is special. He's always been special.
Yeah, for sure, Hall of Famer.
Yeah.
Let's move on to the older guys here. So Alonso and Bassett, talk to me about their leadership in both of their roles for the hitters and the pitchers.
I'm going to tell you a story, and I told this on the air during the Masson broadcast the other day. I happened to be in uniform, I think second to the last day I was there, and everybody was on the main field. It was an off day. There were no games going on, and all the pitchers came, all the position players came. They were working on first and third plays, bunt defenses, cutoffs, relays, the typical stuff you do in spring training, about a 20-minute drill. And it was sloppy. Like there was some throws being sprayed around, some balls being missed, some guys going through kind of going through the motion a little bit, in my opinion. And Albie called everybody in and said, okay, we're going to break. Going to go to this. Hitters going over here, pitchers going here. We're going to break off. And anybody got anything to say? Well, Bassett raises his hand and steps in the middle of the group and just absolutely airs everybody out. Airs them out. I'm 37 years old. I ain't got much time left in this game. I want to get back to the World Series. This team is good enough to get back to the World Series. I want to get back where I was last year. We're going to come out and do this and spend our time. We're going to do it right. We're going to do it because when it matters, it's going to matter. It's going to cost us a ball game. It's going to be the difference between winning a ball game and losing a ball game. And I don't want to miss the playoffs by one game.
Yep.
And he just let everybody have it. Well, then all of a sudden, Pete Alonso steps forward and goes, let's run it back. Let's do it again. Looked around, he looked at Albie and goes, let's run it back again. And they did the same drill again for 20 more minutes. It was crisp. It was clean. It was meaningful. Everybody was at 100%. So that just kind of gives you an idea of the leadership that's out there. And I remember sticking my head in Albie's office at the end of the day, and I walked in, I said, dude, that's different. That's not been around here the last 4 or 5 years. That kind of leadership has not been here. And to me, it's going to make all the difference in the world. And it's a great point by Bassett and Alonso is, hey, if we're going to spend our time doing this, guys, it matters. We're doing this for a reason. So when it matters and there's 40,000 people in the stands and we're playing the Yankees and they put on a bunt or do something like that, we got to be able to defend it and we got to be able to do it the right way in order to win a ball game. And I said, that hadn't been here before. And so I love that piece of it. I think Alonso is going to be a guy that young Jackson Holiday, Colton Cowser, Henderson, Westy, when he comes back, all the young guys can bounce things off of and say, hey, man, what were you thinking in this situation? What are you looking from this pitcher? What are you focused on here? And from Bassett's standpoint, you know who Bassett reminds me of? Chris Bassett reminds me of Rick Sutcliffe when Sut came to the Orioles in 92. I was 22 years old, 23. Messina was 21 or 22. Arthur Rhodes was young. He had already won a Cy Young, toward the end of his career, but he had so much knowledge about the game and how to read bats, how to be a pro on the field, how to be a pro off the field. Rick Sutcliffe changed my career in so many ways, as he did Messina's and others, and he was so valuable to have that guy. I think for Bradish, even for Trevor Rogers, certainly for Shane Baz, who's only got about 60 big league starts under his belt, Bassett's going to be a difference maker, man, because I just sat there and listened to that guy talk about pitching, man. He's talking about reading bats. He's talking about how I want to attack guys. When I got a big lead, I might pitch this guy to his strength. If I'm up 5-1 and it's the seventh inning and there's 2 out, nobody on, I may throw Aaron Judge to his strength. I don't give a crap if he hits a home run or hits a double in the gap, but I'm not going to go to the well on him every time. When the winning runs out at second base, I'm going to pitch him totally different. And I don't want to show him how I'm going to get him out. Like, that's pitching 201, 301. It's not pitching 101. And so that's valuable information for all the young pitchers that are out there to hang around Chris Bassett and hear him talk about how he attacks hitters in certain situations of a ball game.
Yeah. I mean, and Kyle Gibson, he's been able to provide that over the years, but like not to the level that Chris Bassett's done it at, and as long as he's done it as. I mean, Kyle was good in his own right.
Sure.
But like, Chris has done things, I would say, a little bit better, especially in Toronto. I mean, something hit that gear there where, I mean, like you said, now he gets to pass that down to a lot of younger guys, which is
well, and he did it for 3 years in the AL East, arguably the toughest division in all of baseball, and that matters. And also what he did in the playoffs last year for the Blue Jays. 2 things. One, was a starter all year, went to the bullpen, didn't even complain about it. Says, hey, that's what you guys need me to do. That's what I'm going to do. And not only did he go to the bullpen, he was outstanding in the bullpen too, And so that's a leader for you. That's a guy that cares. That's a guy that's worried about the name on the front of the jersey, not the name on the back of the jersey. I love Chris Bassett. I think he's going to be a big, big part.
Nice. I mean, I love to hear that because, like you said, we haven't had that here for a while. Like, and we've tried to think that we've had that here, but it's nice to finally hear it.
Yeah.
Let's move on to the catchers a little bit. What have you noticed since Joe Singley's come into town? Have you noticed a large defensive jump, or guys like Chris Bassett also in the ear of these 2 guys and kind of giving them a little bit of feedback and stuff too?
Yeah, no, I went down and made it my business twice to watch the catchers, man, and they go down in the batting cages areas, and they work on. They got a new thing now of how fast your hand is, your hand speed. They can mark your hand speed now, and so while they were practicing off a machine, all the catchers had a tubing tied to their glove hand, and it was tied down to their feet, and they start on the ground, and they pull it up, They see who can do it the fastest. It's on a timer. And so they're always working on that. Every morning, all the catchers out there blocking balls, of course, and then really working hard on how fast the glove, because that's kind of where we are now. As everybody knows, we're going down to one knee. We give a target. The pitch comes to the plate. We drop the glove and work from the ground up to try to steal a few more pitches. That's the idea. I don't always agree with it because I think it hurts sometimes blocking balls with a runner at third base. And so I part with that sometimes. I'd like a more traditional stance when there's a runner just 90 feet away where we can kind of block it, because it gets really tough if you're on one knee, as we know, to really move laterally sometimes. But they feel like in the whole scope of things, they're still in more pitches by doing what they're doing, working from the ground up. But I can see a difference in Basayo. I thought Adley Rutschman was really good defensively last year when he played. I thought he took a jump forward last year, and he looked really good this year too. That's going to be a big part too, man. You got to be able to, as a pitcher, I got to know if my best pitch was a curveball, my best strikeout pitch. I got to be able to trust you behind the plate, Adley Rutschman, Samuel Basayo. I got to trust you to know with one out, runner at third base, I'm fixing to bounce a 2-strike breaking ball to go for the strikeout. And I got to know that you're going to keep it in front and you're going to check the runner at third when he swings and misses it, and you're going to get the out over at first base. If you can't do that for me, now all of a sudden you've taken away my bread and butter, because now I'm scared to bounce the breaking ball to go for the strikeout because it could get by you. Then all of a sudden the run scores and I got a runner at first base too. And so I got to be able to trust you to be able to do that, whether it's a splitter in the dirt, a breaking ball in the dirt, whatever. You got to be able to do that. I think Basayo is still growing in a lot of ways. I think he's better. And look, here's the thing about him. I heard there was a knock on his defense when he came last year. I'm going to tell you what. I thought he was better than advertised defensively last year for me. Now, were there some things he had to work on? Of course, he was 20, 21 years old. There's still things he's going to work on for the next. They're always trying to get better, but I didn't think he was as bad as advertised last year. I thought he actually caught pretty well, and I think he's even better this year. He's super athletic, as you know. The kid can almost do a split over at first base. He moves around really big, really good for a big guy. I think Adley Rutschman is really good defensively. Samuel Basayo's probably got obviously a little bit better throwing arm, but Rutsch is like really consistent with his. Like it may be 1-9 or 2, but like it's on the money all the time, And so
Yeah.
you can make the case that the 1-2 punch the Orioles have as catchers, there's not a whole lot of teams out there that have a 1-2 punch like that.
I completely agree. And I mean, it's a big year for, I mean, not for Samuel just because of his age, but like it's a big year for Adley too. I feel like the Orioles only go as far as Adley goes. And it's kind of been that way since he's come up. I mean, I know Gunner's great and I know Pete's great and stuff like that. But if Adley Rutschman finds a way to hit that extra gear this year, I think 92, 93 wins is in the bag.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I think Adley's a huge part of this, and when he was going right was when the Orioles were winning a lot of games. He's just a difference maker on both sides of the ball. When he's getting on base and he's taking his walks and he's getting his big hits, those kind of things, he's just a difference maker in the lineup. It just extends your lineup to have a dude like that. No matter where they plan on hitting him, he may end up hitting 5th or 6th or 7th to start the year. I don't know where he's going to hit, but because he's a switch hitter, he's a difference maker. And Basayo, when you can dream on him a little bit, like what's it look like 3 years from now? What's that body look like? He's slimmed up, dude. He lost like he has a little baby fat like we all had. We were 20 or 21 years old, but he's slimmed up, firmed up a little bit. Looks really good. The ball just really comes off the bat. The interesting for me is, will Basayo get an opportunity to hit left-handed pitching? Like, where are we at on that? I think time will tell on that. Does he get an opportunity to hit against left-handers, or is it going to be a platoon situation for him? We don't know yet. We'll have to wait and see. But he's definitely going to be in there against right-handed pitching. There's no doubt in my mind, and he's got a chance to be a difference maker.
Yeah, and I mean, look, at 21 years old, whatever he is now, he's got plenty of time to learn it all, and I just hope he doesn't feel like he's got to like produce right away because of the contract. Like, just be a young guy, go through your development. Don't think you got to hit 3 in the 4 hole because you made this kind of deal or whatever. Like, if you're hitting 7, 8, take what's given to you and just hit the ball hard. I mean, it's hard for a 21-year-old kid to do that. I mean, we saw it with Jackson last year. It's hard.
Absolutely. I know what it's like because I was in the big leagues at 21. Man, you're in a man's world at 21 years old, man, trying to figure it out. But the good news for Basayo is this: you got Pete Alonso, you got Taylor Ward, you got guys like that that's at the top that most people are circling in their bat order saying these are the guys that aren't going to beat us right here. You got Gunnar Henderson there too. In some ways, I think. And I'm predicting a big year for Tyler O'Neill. I think he's just kind of hiding back there right now.
And
everybody's talking. Yeah, everybody's talking about Henderson and Pete Alonso and Taylor Ward and talking about all these guys. And Tyler O'Neill's just going to hang back there in that 6 or 7 hole, and he's going to wear some people out this year. I believe that. And I think in some ways, Basayo's not feeling a whole lot of pressure. I think there's always pressure because he's a top prospect. But when you got Pete Alonso and Taylor Ward on your team and Gunnar Henderson on your team, that's a good thing for you. You can kind of sit back a little bit. Everybody says, oh, this is the young guy that's got a lot of juice, but I'm going to picture this guy a little bit. I'm not letting Gunnar Henderson beat me. I'm not letting
Right.
Pete Alonso beat me, and so I think it's a good time. That's the thing about getting up, and that's what I call Alonso. He's an aircraft carrier in your lineup. That's what he is.
Yeah.
He changes everything about your team offensively because he's a guy that says, hey, I got these big wide shoulders. I played in New York. You boys hop on. Hop
Yep.
on, I'm gonna show you what it's all about. And he loves that. Like he absolutely, the more pressure he has, the better he performs. And I've watched him, I knew him, he's the same guy at the University of Florida. I texted Kevin O'Sullivan, the head coach at Florida, the other day. When I was down in camp, I said, tell me about Pete Alonso. I knew him from a distance, did a few games. He said, Ben, he's the same guy at Florida that he is with the Orioles, with you guys right now. Likes to cut up, likes to talk crap all the time. Going to outwork everybody, be the first guy at practice, wants the most reps. He said, Ben, he's the same guy now as he was when he was playing his freshman year, his sophomore and junior year at the University of Florida. He hadn't changed a bit. He loves the game of baseball. He is a leader, and he wants to be that leader. So Orioles got a good one with him.
That's awesome to hear. Now, give me your prediction. Who leads the Orioles in home runs this year between Gunnar, Pete, Ward, or Basayo?
It's hard to get away from Pete Alonso. The only thing the dude does every year, he's averaged 38 or 39 home runs every year, except for, so if he just has his average year, it's 38, 39 homers, So I think he leads the team in home runs. Because the other piece of that is, and let's knock on wood, he plays every day. He's at first base every freaking day, just like Taylor Ward's out in left field just about every day. And that's why those guys put the numbers, because they have the at-bats to go do it. I will predict this, though. I think Gunnar Henderson becomes the second Oriole in history to have a 30-30 year. I think
I wouldn't be shocked.
Yeah, I'm going to throw that out there. I think, and we know he stole over 30 bases last year. That's in the tank for him. And I think that, and now it all makes sense, because I was always perplexed last year when Tony Mansolino was managing. He came on and he said, well, Gunner's only had his A swing for like a week out of the year, 2 weeks out of the year. And this was in like September. And I'm going, wait a minute. You telling me you guys couldn't fix him, and none of the hitting coaches could fix him, and he's only had his best swing for 2 or 3 weeks? Like, that didn't sit well with me. But now we found out he had the shoulder impingement, and that's what Tony Mansolino was talking about last year. He couldn't physically do the things that he wanted to do. His swing was really flat. He couldn't get the ball in the air like he wanted to. So then it all made sense. Because I was like, wait a minute. You got big league hitting coaches. You tell me this kid has only been right for 2 weeks out of the year. That ain't sitting right. Something's weird about that. So it makes sense now. But yeah, I think Gunner's going to have a big year. I mean, obviously, what he did in the WBC, pretty dadgum impressive.
Put himself on the map.
Against some. Yes, he did. Yes, he did, in a big way. Played the heck out of third base. Which we know he's an athlete. He can play anywhere you put him. But I was pleased with his jump he took defensively last year. Even though everybody says, it was a bad year offensively, but it still was a career high in stolen bases, still a career high in doubles. So he still had a pretty solid year last year. But I think Gunnar hitting, most probably right in front of Pete Alonso, is going to have a 30-30 year. I just believe that.
No, for sure. Now, we covered a lot tonight, and I really appreciate all your insights here. Give me one thing that when you were down there that just stood out to you that we haven't covered today. Could be a player, could be a thing, could be anything.
I think it was a thing for me, and it was on the field longer, more attention to detail than in years past. I used to get kind of aggravated because I'm kind of old school, and Cal Ripken Sr. ran the show when I was first came up as an Oriole, and we stayed on the field until we got it right. We stayed on the field until we worked our tails off. I know we're in a different era now where rest is important, and we got these wristbands for what our heart rate is and how many steps we took. We wear this vest, and it tells us all what our, I don't know, dehydration rate is and all those kind of things. But I felt like in years past, it wasn't enough work for me. It was good work, but like it was too quick and we were off the field and we got to save their legs and we got to save this and we got to keep them ready to go. Well, that didn't work out too good. We had a record number of injuries last year, so it's
Good
like
point.
I was ready to see a change. And what I've seen this year is when I was down there, a little more attention to detail, like the Pete Alonso, Chris Bassett story. Hey, if we're going to do it, we're going to do it right. We're going to speak up. And I felt like more reps this year, more reps staying on the field a little bit longer. That's what jumped at me. And I'll tell you another thing that jumped at me too is a new coaching staff with a ton of energy. I'm talking about these guys are bringing some energy. They're loving on players all the time, telling them how good they can be, getting in them when they need to. It's encouraging, but it's real love. It's hard love in some ways about, hey, we're gonna have some honest conversations, and I'm gonna pump you up when I need to, but I'm gonna tell you the truth when I need to too. And these are the things you have to do in order for us to have success, in order for you to have success. So I love the enthusiasm from a very young coaching staff too.
That's awesome to hear. I mean, that was probably one of the biggest things that most of us fans, at least, were excited about, is just seeing what he could bring. I mean, you could just kind of tell in his interviews and stuff like that. I think he's already kind of won the whole city over just by his interviews.
Yeah.
And
I just have a hard time understanding, man. Like I'm from way down south down here, and he's got a pretty thick northeastern accent. So I was like, Skip, what'd you just say? But say that again, Skip. But he's a huge basketball fan, man. He in his office, he's got this little Nerf hoop, and he's in there every morning before we go. And he's shooting hoops in there, and he's got his high top tennis shoes on. He loves the game of basketball, but he brings a ton of energy, man. He really does. I love that about him and about this young coaching staff. So I'm excited about this year. I don't know how you can't be excited about it. I mean, there's some things that I worry about a little bit, but listen, everybody's got some question marks out there. But I will say this again. The key is the start for the Orioles. I'm going to say that again. I think that's one, to be able to flush last season and put that behind you. And also because the schedule favors the Orioles in the month of April, I think they need to get off to a solid start. And what do you mean by solid, Ben? Well, I would say 5, 6, 7 games over 500 by the end of April. I think that's going to be a good start if they can start off something like that. I think that's going to be important to get out of the gates quickly and get going.
Yep. But Ben, I can't thank you enough. And this interview was fantastic, just to get your insights and whatnot. I mean, obviously, the comment section here just loves listening to you talk all day long.
Well, I appreciate it, man.
Appreciate it.
I'm looking forward to it. It's opening day is just around the corner. We're gonna be 3-man boothing it, me and Cakes, and KB will be in there for opening day against the Twins. So I'm looking forward to that. It's gonna be a lot of fun, man. It's gonna be excitement in Birdland. And hey, I took a little tour of the new ballpark the other day, man, and the things they're doing. I'm telling you, it is going to be crazy. It's going to be so nice what they're doing, and the improvements. The new scoreboard's awesome. So I can't wait for everybody to come out. I hope to see everybody at the yard for opening day for sure.
Does your booth move with the new whatever they put in the middle?
No. Thank gosh, our booth, because we got the best seat in the house at Camden Yards out of any ballpark. We're not real high like it over in DC and some other places. We got the perfect height to really tell when balls are hit, and we can kind of see what's going on. So we stayed the same. It's just the club level just below us where the media sat. Yeah. That's all glassed in now, and big fine restaurant and bars and all kind. I forget how many 600 TVs around down there. Like, it's changed a lot, man. You're gonna be able to go to the bathroom. You're gonna be able to go get you a cold beer, and you're still gonna be able to watch TV and see what's going on in the ball game, which is really neat.
Nice,
really neat.
Well, thank you very, very much for giving us your time tonight, and we'll be looking forward to hearing you back in the booth again.
All right, I appreciate it. Take care. I always enjoy being with you.
All right, see you guys.